So today we're going to have a very, very different event. So I think we're going back to the Sketch and Fajita days where this was very informal and we ask questions, we build the agenda. The agenda today actually is going to be um, very. We're going to have a back and forth on questions because this is an area that I see a lot of confusion in the industry and in the teams that I work with. And so I think hopefully we will bring some light, and we're going to share some resources that you can actually take with you and apply. So, and Sergi, just so you know, when I was Beto and I were preparing for this talk,
Hmm.
I kept thinking about you because I can see many of the things that we're doing here saving you hours and hours, and hopefully everyone's. So if you are into Figma, working with teams, I think this is definitely like a good
Yeah,
event.
definitely.
So let's open up for questions, and make sure you say hello. And so we're gonna have um, a quick screenshot. Maybe we do take a screenshot at some point. Um, and do you mind if I put people on the spot? Let me see. Ozzy, hey, good to see you, man.
How
So
are you?
can I'm doing well, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit if you are using Figma and what are the areas that you struggle the most when organizing files, working with teams, if you are doing that, or if any of you have any thoughts, please feel free to unmute and join the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm more into Adobe XD actually, but I've
Mhm.
been digging on Figma since a few months ago, and it's really a really wonderful tool. To be honest, I mean, it's awesome. Yes. So I started recently a new role. My first task was to create a design system. Imagine. So
Mhm.
this workshop for me is awesome.
That's good.
Um, Yeah, but it's quite challenging because it's in Adobe XD. So I'm trying to figure out myself how to organize all the files.
Yeah,
So because I'm starting from scratch, so it's
yeah,
quite challenging.
perfect. So I'm glad you came because the organization kind of a paradigm or structure that we're going to be presenting tonight. We actually, I brought that over from what we developed when we were working with Sketch and Abstract, and so you can pretty much use the same approach with Adobe XD with any team. So this is mostly to help teams that are expecting to grow. If you're a freelancer, if you work on your own, like you have more freedom to create your own way of working. So, but what we're going to be showing tonight, it's what happens if you have to scale your team, right? So I think
Great,
this.
awesome.
Any other want to join in and make comments, ask questions? I can always ask Christina. I know what you've been up to.
Well, yes, I had similar experience to Ozzy. Recently, I started a new job and as a product designer, and one of the first tasks I had was similar to create branding guidelines and pattern libraries. So actually, Marcelo gave me a lot of good advices, and I'm still working on it, but it is going very well. And I mostly used Figma, which actually, when I started, I was using it in combination with Zeppelin because that is what the developers that I worked with were familiar with. So even though Figma has similar options, I just started with what they were familiar with so that we can start working faster, like communicating better faster. But I'm really looking forward to learning more how to use Figma to implement design system. Really interesting.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for bringing the Zeppelin to the conversation because this is definitely a different approach that I personally I like it a lot. If the company has the budget to get a separate license just for Zeppelin, it's a good way to hand off the projects to development. Although Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD, they all have inspectors and ways to hand off the design files. They don't typically, so they have different plans. They charge for that or they not. There's InVision, there's no InVision. So there are a number of variables that you need to check. And over time that keeps changing. So I think that's kind of a disrupting for the development team. Zeppelin is more mature on a handoff area. Beto, I will pass to you just so you, do your honors.
Yes, I'll do the presentation and the introductions. So I guess, welcome everyone. So this is a collab event between UX Fajitas and Friends of Figma. So welcome everyone. As you know, UX Fajitas has been there, like, with the support of Marcelo and showing the best practices in UX design. So we're very happy to do this collaboration. So the first event is going to be today of how to start building the design systems. And the second event will be in January. That will be the second part of this, because design systems is quite an extensive talk. So we decided to break it apart in two. And because the holidays are coming, of course, we're doing this in January. So everyone will start the new year with some new fresh knowledge. So a little bit about Friends of Figma. We opened this chapter in Miami, and we exist to do the same, to share the best practices in user experience, in product design, and coming together to help each other to learn and to lift everyone up. We all come from different backgrounds, and at the end, we're here just to learn, right? So that's the big purpose of all these events in South Florida, and especially now that we're doing this Figma chapter here in Miami. And of course, we're open to everyone interested in learning about the tool and design in general. And we encourage to have fun, to be bold, and foster inclusivity. So just a little about me. I'm Beto Navarro. I am the leader of this chapter. UX UI designer. Some people know me already, and yeah, I'm taking charge on this chapter. But if anyone is interested of helping me, like organizing events, please feel free to contact me. It will be nice to have another person helping organize. So just to put that out there. And just a little bit about Friends and Figma in general. We have around 88 chapters worldwide. So what Figma does basically is on each city, there's a chapter. So, and you can check them out at friends.figma.com. And there's always events happening around, UX or different tools, so how to use Figma. And of course, the city chapter is /Miami. And you can go there and just register for the next event, so you can receive a reminder of the event in January 7th. And of course, let's learn something new, awesome today. And of course, we have our beloved Marcelo. He will be sharing the enterprise level design architecture. And just for the people that don't know Marcelo, he's the UX manager for UKG and one of South Florida's most active design communities leaders and speakers. He's always happy to share his knowledge from over 15 years of building efficient design systems, solving complex design challenges, and developing thoughtful expertise to foster modern design practices in agile development environments for mobile and web applications.
Where did you find
I'm all over. I'm like CIA, so I can find a lot of stuff. So today's topic, and this is kind of like the run through that, of course, Marcelo will go and talk about, is basically the abstraction of the design system. So basically, he will be showing how basically to break the design system. Usually we find out that, you do a file and you put everything in there, but there's another way. And Marcelo will explain why he does that. Of course, he will go about version control, because imagine when you have a design system, I mean, it starts small, but then it starts scaling and growing and growing. So it's very necessary to have a versioning controlling of the system. The naming conventions, how to name your actual files, which is probably something that nobody thinks about it, but it's actually really important. He will show how to create a template about, how to start the system. And then he will touch a topic in tokens. So Marcelo, the floor is yours. Now I can shut up and you can share your screen whenever you want.
No, thank you. You're gonna help me with this. So we worked on this together. So,
Okay.
well, it's so good to see a bunch of people that kind of a regulars here on the meetup, and I've been seeing Mike Pace like for the past 3 years, probably, Mike, and he doesn't miss one event. This is so great to see. Maybe this is a good time for us to take a picture. Look at Claudio. He's on a press room of the White House, I guess.
Counting for the votes.
So I'm not sure if if you feel comfortable to show your cameras, and we'll take a quick picture, a screen capture, and then we go about business. All right, who's gonna take the picture? Snow White. Rachel's here. Lou's here.
Waiting for everyone. Yes. Well, are you guys ready?
We're ready. We're ready.
Okay, let me do the other group.
Let's do the Halloween one.
Oh, I'm ready for that too. Okay, so choose your virtual background. There you go.
Oh, I'm not that fancy.
I know. Okay, fun
Good.
one. Halloween one. 1, 2, 3. Smile or scream. Another one.
That's great.
Amazing.
Let's build some systems now.
Yes, let's go back to work.
Thank you, Snejana. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right. So I would like to begin if anyone has any questions about struggles that you've been doing with having with Figma and working with teams. So just to be clear, tonight's event is to help everyone organizing and building Figma projects, Figma naming conventions, right? How to invite people and they don't mess up with your files? How do you create a system where you can create, indicate statuses if you are working on a file, which version, right? Does anyone have any questions? Are you going through these struggles right now? Feel free to speak up.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Rachel.
When you are importing files from Sketch, because you have a design system in Sketch, it doesn't always transfer correctly.
Correct.
What is the best way to go about that when creating a design system from your old design system?
All right, we're going to talk about that. So I think it's important to, when you have something built, if you don't have this something well organized, you're just going to be transferring that, right? So I think that's part of what we're going to be sharing today is the spreadsheet that we keep track and we organize our files. We think how the system will be organized, how the project files will be organized before we start doing anything in Figma. All right. Thanks for that question, because that's something that I see a lot. Beto and I, we've been working together on a project, and that's exactly the problem that they are having. They cannot move forward because they import everything from Sketch. Now they are kind of having to fix the debt that they brought it over, and they should have think about they should have thought about the architecture and how Figma, they would be using Figma. It's a completely different environment, right? So Sketch is a desktop application, and you have tools like Abstract that allows that governance of file, the version control, but you don't have to collaborate with others on the same file, not yet at least. With Figma is a completely different ballgame, because once you open the file and you invite someone, that someone is interacting, right? And you know, they will override your changes, I mean, your design. So someone else had a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Hi, Julian.
Hey, so I'm building an app overseas in the Ukraine, and I have no experience with design because I've never been to design school. And a lot of the people talk about Figma as a tool that they use to create the design process of the app that I'm building. What can I expect to learn here, or
Sure.
well,
Yes. Do you work with other designers or just developers in overseas?
I want to work with other designers here in Miami, but currently I'm just looking for a development firm in the Ukraine to do all that.
Okay, let's talk about that. So I go through some of the best practices. Keep in mind what we're going to be showing tonight is something that we create to be able to have to give you the ability to work with other designers, right? But feel free to ask any questions when we go through that. I'm sure you will appreciate the naming convention, all of that, that you can start using on your own, even if you work by yourself. Okay.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Marcelo.
Thank you. Any other questions? Let me try to pull up.
I have a quick question. I would also like to ask, what is your advice? What is the best way once the design system is built and in the place to implement it in the team and to get the whole team in the habit of really referring to it and using it without maybe adding details to acceptance criteria to every ticket? Like how to get team that haven't used design system before in a habit of referring to it and using it, like how to not like in addition to implementing it in actual system, how do we implement it in a team?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, actually. One thing I need to make this clear. When you have a design system in Sketch or in Adobe XD or in Figma, that's not the design system. That's a product visual language for a design system. So those are the design decisions and components for their design system. The design system is the whole thing, right? It's where everyone contributes with documenting voice and tone, documenting design assets, right? For other designers to work with, documenting the code, how to use the components. That's the design system. It's a system, it's a platform that resides somewhere, and you have designers, copywriters, developers, QA, all feeding and digesting from that platform, okay? So designers, we all tend to use the term design system as our sketch file, as our Figma project, right? So that's not really accurate. And you probably, you know, this is gonna take some time until we all get mature on how to name things. And that's part of the confusion, right? So developers think that a design system is a designer thing. It's not, right? That's why, like, when you start using common language, like this is a product language, this is the language, the visual language for our product, they receive that as oh yeah, I'm part of that, right? It's not your system, it's our system. To answer your question, in terms of how you can bring in developers, I think the best way to do that is not to go big, right? Start small, start with a quick win, start with a small project, right? And then you can build that around that. So you collaborate with the developer, and then you can start indicating that developer, hey, talk to whoever, right? Because he worked with me on that project, and we did a great partnership, bridging design with development with this approach. Okay. Any other questions? One last question, if you have one. Good. Sorry. I'm gonna share my screen. And by the way, I am not monitoring the chat. So if anyone can please, keep track of that. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right. So the first thing that I recommend is for you to have a file system, right, where you can name things. I'm gonna go through this. I'm gonna explain each one of these. Oops. So let me bring Figma here. And this is a boilerplate that that Beto and I were putting together. What is a boilerplate? Boilerplate is a term from the engineering side, something that you can hit the ground running, right? So we are building this that will make it available in January on a part 2 of this series that you can all take and use however you want. Okay. Basically, what you have annotations. Like this is the default view for Figma. I personally like the list view that's more compact, and you can see your files organized in a different way. So let me bring the spreadsheet, and let's compare what I have over here. So obviously, I'm not sure which version you have, and Beto, maybe feel free to chime in here because I'm not as familiar with the versions of Figma, but you can. I'm not sure if everyone has this particular feature. Is that correct, Beto? Do you need to have a different plan for this?
For what? For
having teams and projects?
Well, the free version lets you have, your free account, and you can have, I think, 3 projects. So you have, one of your projects, a design system, that should be fine. Okay. The only thing that the paid version does is when you actually export the components as a library. It's interesting because it lets you export like the typography and the colors, but actually like the components or the symbols, you need to have the paid version. So it's weird.
Okay. I'm not sure which version I have. I think I have the pro version. It's not the enterprise version. It's something in between. And yeah, so is that correct? Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So this is the organization, the way I explained. And so you have UX and for headers here. And they always put, when you create an organization, they always put the design, the Figma design system file as a placeholder, right? You don't need this. Delete this if I can. Yeah. All right. So basically what you have, this is a new organization and this is empty. And before I start doing anything, I go back to my spreadsheet and I start working in a naming system that will allow me to scale and have other designers to come in. Even if you're not working with the team, this also works as a good best practice for you to use on your small projects. A couple of things that I want to do. I know that we have some notes here. I want to make sure that I follow those notes. Okay, so new project and why abstracting files. So let's do that. The boilerplate, and you will see that I am abstracting some files. And when I create a new project, I tend to have a chronological number as the ID for that file. And this is what this column is. It's just an ID, and this doesn't change. I can move files just so I can leave a placeholder. If I'm going to continue having tokens, I can create categories like on the 20s will be my themes. On 30s, we'll start using the core components. Perhaps on 80, I can start doing my mobile components if you have that, or my custom components, right? So try to create a system that you have room to grow and you stay organized. The second piece for this naming convention is the category, right? What is the category name for this file? Does this belong to, like I have it over here, this, I'm building a core library, and then once this is done, I can package this core library and have a single version. So you can have the project here. You can notice that my project has a version 2, right? So I can package the entire thing as 1.0. That's my first launch. And before that, we just like testing, right? So the third piece for this is obviously the name. And you can change this. If you don't want to use all caps, that's fine. I use all caps because it's easier to differentiate from the categories. I don't need to keep looking which one's the annotation file, right? Now, the small element that I have over here, feel free to scribble here. That's fine. Sorry. Then thanks for the tip. I think I can scribble here. Oh yeah, there you go. Thanks. So the small element that I have over here is the emoji, and the emoji is definitely like something that you can use for your good. So the way I know my shortcut for my emojis is Control Command Space if you're on a Mac. Right. And the way I have over here, now I don't need, okay, mouse. So I have my favorite emojis. And I know that I'm gonna be architecting these files. I save them, right? And if you notice, they have a particular order. If you look for, let's say, book, so the Unicode name, they have an alphabetical order in how they name this. So you can see how the red comes before the green comes before the blue, and the yellow comes last, right? So if I create a new file in this project, this is one of the most annoying things in Figma when you're trying to organize and structure your project. If you create a new file, you can create a new file from here, or you can create a new file from clicking on a plus sign, or you can import a sketch file, which I do not recommend doing now before thinking of your system to answer your question, Rachel. So you click on new file, and the first thing that Figma does is it opens a tab. It's really, really annoying, right? Now they expect you to start designing. That's not what we're trying to do here. So, and this is already here, okay? It doesn't ask me if I want to where I want to save this. So I'm going to delete this. The other way to create a new file is click on a plus sign here. The same thing happens. All right. This, I'm going to show now my technique of not doing this. And I have a templated file here with my naming convention, XXX, the category, the emoji information, which has the status. So the green, the way I like to use is Green is set. You can use. The red is I'm working on, right? So expect changes. And the yellow could be anything, right? So you talk to use with caution something, right? Waiting for approval or something, right? So you define these naming convention and these statuses with your team. And this is also good because it helps you promote your naming convention with the other designers. So what I typically do is I right click and I duplicate. And I can rename here. And I can just go back to my spreadsheet and say, I'm just gonna use I haven't created my iconography. I'll do 05. There you go. If you, and that's another thing. So you can probably create this in a way that where you can just copy and then go over here and paste, right? So that's another way to do this. So, and here I'll put the pipe and I'll put my emoji. So I'm working on this. I'm gonna make a red. Yeah, my system running slow. And obviously the version, 0, 0, 0. All right. And so this is definitely like on the core, this is 05. I'm gonna need to use pretty much the same thing here, enter. So you can see how this is here. And I forgot to pipe that. Okay, any questions, any suggestions, any comments about this? Cool. I'm gonna do something different now just to show you how important the icon color is. I'm gonna duplicate this. And supposedly I have 2 files with the same name. I have 2 files with the same name, right? This is something for you to be careful, right? Because if you have another person working on a file and they there's a miscommunication, you work on the same thing. But the reason why I want to make them the same name file is just to show you the importance of the order of these emojis. So if I go and I go to this file and make this emoji green, and I save, you can see the emoji goes down, all right? That's the main reason why I do not use emojis as the first character of your file in Figma. I see many teams doing that. That could create a problem if you don't know how to use, right? So have a good way, a good system to use these emojis to convey status, to convey how you're working on in this file. Okay. So I know that I need to work on my elevation, and I'm just going to rename some of this. Yeah, my system is definitely running slow. And this will be 6. And I know it's going to be different from here. So this should be, 4, 6, so I'm missing 4 here somewhere. Okay. Okay, so I have this. And one thing that I did on my template file, which is another tip for you to consider, when you go into this file, I have a couple of things set. And Beto, feel free to chime in and make your own comments or ask questions as well. So a couple of things that I have over here. I have my cover, right? If you don't know how to use covers, you can, write an artboard, create an artboard. You change the color, right? You write something here, and when you go to the name of this artboard, and you right click on it, and you set as a thumbnail, that will turn into the thumbnail of that file, for that file in the project view. Okay, so if you go here, that's the thumbnail. I tend to make small, right? And there's a reason why I'm making this small, is because I'm leveraging these these labels. They are actually symbols that I created here on the annotation file. The reason why I created the annotation file, and I can talk a little bit about the annotation file, is these are supporting styles or visual elements that you use to annotate your design. Okay, so you can see here that I don't have any styles set in this file. What I have is a font family that I'm sure I'm not going to be using on a product, a color that I'm sure I'm not going to be using on a product, right? And it's I tend to use Roboto Condensed because it's a narrow font, and you can add your description in a very small amount of space, right? So you can see how I have my components here as a heading, as a subheading, emphasis, and low emphasis. And then with these same components, I build which by the way, these are the new variants. Beto, I'll let you explain the variants after this, if people haven't experienced variants. And then I have two components here. Two containers here using these components: title, version number, which is the low emphasis, and then the description, which is the utility emphasis, and the same container, but with the light pink background. Then I have some other components here to help me with the color palettes that we're going to be sharing with the tokens, and a collection of color palettes. So if I know that I'm going to be using this throughout my system, I always keep the source of truth for managing these styles in a separate file, right? And I can import that file automatically on my template. On my cover file here, my cover component, I have pretty much the same component here, which is the heading. And here I use the subheading for the project file. And all I did was to override the color. Okay. So now how am I using this? If you go on this file, I have my cover, which is coming from the library. So if you go to Assets and click on Library, you will see that my interesting. Enable library for all teams. This should be here. The annotation file should be on. So I'm not sure if I turned off by mistake, but used in this file. All right. So now you can see how I have it over here, right? So if I go back to my pages and I have my components, my starting file always have these two components. You have a light pink artboard and a white artboard. As you are creating Figma files and you need to create components, And just so you don't have components all over your canvas, create an area that's distinct enough for you to place your components as you are organizing, building your UI. So once you are done, you can always go back to your components area here and start cleaning up, deciding where the component will live. If it's going to live in this file, it's going to live in another file, and if this file will be a library or not. Okay. So for the variants, just so you can have a quick glimpse, I can switch this using my variants here, and I want the box pink, right? So that's why, like on my annotations file, I have the different states is inside this variant. The same thing over here. So if I click on this guy over here, I have my utility heading. I can change this from U2 heading to, low emphasis. Okay, it's just like components, but now it's organized in different ways, which makes beautiful. You don't have to navigate through a list of components for you to change. So this is most like the states. How do you want this to be? Okay, so I guess there you go. Okay, and when I am ready for the changes, you can notice I have the zoom thing on top of this. Let me see if I can drag. Okay, so you can see how I did some changes to this file, right? Now I need to publish. This is another key step that you should not skip, right? Always have a good system for you to keep track of your changes. And that's where, like, if you have the opportunity to work with teams that create tickets in Jira, I think Christina was mentioning that earlier, right? Get on a habit of creating your own tickets. I'm gonna be working on creating a container, a couple of containers that will allow me to have my team organize components and their own screen files. So let's do that, and you create your own ticket in Jira, and you can just, when you publish, a couple of things that I want to do here is I want to rename the version. 204, just so I can communicate to my team members that there's a new version out. I want to make sure that the cover also shows 04. It's an extra work. Yes, it's an extra work, but you have to remember that you're not working alone. You're working with your team members, and that's why you need to stay organized. And once I have renamed it, I can publish. And the first thing I do is put, 004. And then I can describe, revisit the container styles. And if you want to put a Jira ticket, 1, 2, 3, you can do that as well. You can even put the link, I think. All right, let's see if that works. So if I publish, so now everything is published, and I can go to my file name here, and there's a new component available. I review, and there's a new cover a few seconds ago on my file version 04. I update. I should also update this one. Okay. All right, any questions? Does this make sense? Are you lost? So we can always review something.
Marcelo, I guess the question right now is why you're doing like all these, because usually, you know, people have just one file with all of it inside.
Yeah.
So maybe you can explain why you're like abstracting like everything in different files.
Right. So I want you to answer that, Beto, because while I drink some water. So you want to talk about the project and what you've been experiencing with project files that has some considerable size.
Yeah, I think a good reminder for everyone is like when you start working on a design system or something related like that, like you have to be really ordered, because you need to think that, okay, probably you're going to start building this, but there's several people jumping into these files, and out of nowhere they need to understand whatever they're seeing on these files. So going back to the project that I'm working together with Marcelo, is like there's no order. Everything's all over the place. There are three different like systems, but there's no one consistent system. So we need to kind of like understand, okay, which one is the one true system from all the systems that they have around. Because what the problem that they have with this client is like everyone's doing a system on their own. So they're not together, you know, as a company as one. So that has been the big problem, and that's something that you need to think about. You need to think of building the source of truth, right? That anyone in the company, and think of an enterprise level of a huge company that is overseas, that someone in Europe or in Asia is going to log in and see these files. They need to understand whatever they're seeing, and the most dummy proof you can do it, the better for everyone. The case of Marcelo, like dividing the files in different files, is because this is scalable. So as the system starts growing, I mean, you can start building the system, putting the colors, but think of the scale when you start like building cards or building the mobile version. I mean, everything's gonna be in one file. So if everything's gonna start building inside just one file, it's gonna become super heavy. So that's why it's better to break these apart and have like little chunks. So you know, when you open a file, it won't take forever to open whenever this thing actually grows at the scale that it needs to be. So that's kind of like the most simple explanation of what can we do.
So the other thing that I would like to add to that, thanks for that, Beto, is the way we've been working for years, and now that we are coming together, and especially like with the pandemic, we're trying to collaborate. We're trying to use these tools as whiteboards, right? And we take screenshots and we put everything in Figma, and that adds to the file size. And next thing you know, the file takes like forever to change, to update, to load. And creating a system that is that has all this design decisions abstracted, right? It works much better because you're not loading a huge system into a new file just to create 3 screens, right? So are you really going to use a modal window for a desktop on a mobile app screen? Definitely not. So why should that be part of your design system library when and you force everyone to import, right? So with this approach, I can create my new file. Let's just obviously I'm creating a core system here. Let's create a new file here as a project file, and the way this would be is, I don't know, just call this is, I'll put a UXF01, that's my project. And this is community, right? And my file here will be mobile app. And that's actually a good, good moment to pause and reflect. Are you creating your mobile app, all your screens in a single file? Should you be thinking or splitting your project into use cases? So should this be onboarding, right? So try to have, put some intent in the way you name things, right? So this is my project file. And when I go into my project file, the first thing I'm gonna assess is which libraries do I need to bring in? I'm gonna be creating a mobile app, and I'll show you an example. So this is, I'm gonna create a new page, and this is my onboarding, right? And now if I go to assets and go to library, which library should I bring in? There's the library here that has 3,069 components. How heavy do you think my file will be once I import this? Or how long is it gonna take for it to load, right? Or if I save something, or if they change something, how many times will I have to update this file if I'm not using that particular component, right? So there are a number of things to consider when working with these files. You really need to think about the efficiency over time, not how to get things done quickly today, right? So in this case over here, yeah, I'm gonna be using my utilities because I'm going to annotate. I'm also gonna be using my buttons, right? And I'm probably gonna be using my shell, like my mobile framework, all right? So I'm only bringing the components that I'm gonna be leveraging. I don't need to bring the entire thing. That keeps your file lean and fast, all right? Obviously, look, it's already, it's already overwhelming when you bring an entire library at once, right? So you have your components there, very clean. And I can build my mobile app here. Okay. And I can probably annotate. So you can create this. You can perhaps change the background to F7, right? So you can see how the systems like this will help you on a long run, right? And you can name your title here. This is my mobile app onboarding. And over time, you have this level of consistency, right? That really allows you to think about how you design things instead of just having, you know, a number of screens that you don't know and that you don't have an idea what that is by looking from this level. At least you have some annotation, you know what this is for, right? Any questions, any recommendation? It's okay to disagree. I think this is each person has a different way of working. I'm just like Beto and I, we're just sharing our failures and how we solve those problems, or at least trying to solve.
Yeah, Selena is saying that personally she doesn't have problems opening large files on Figma like she did with the sketch. And I just want to add that is actually true, just because Figma works in the cloud, so I think it's better for managing files. But a little thing is that it depends too on your computer, because if you have an old computer, of course it will open slower rather than if you have a brand new computer. So that's a thing to consider as well.
Yeah. And if you are on a Zoom call with other designers and designing in Figma, so that alone, that takes up a lot of your memory resources, right? So, all right. So let's take a quick break for Q&A. I'll give you, if you need to go grab a water, we'll leave for something. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking about tokens, how to use tokens, how to work with developers to create a JSON file to have all your design decisions. So this way you can, both the design and engineering team can use a single source of truth. So if if your company merges with another company and they change something, change the typography or change the branding colors, it will automatically update all the files that you have, right? Without having to have this back and forth of how to change things. So we're going to show that in about five minutes. Take 5 minutes, and I'll open up for questions now. I'll stick around if you have any questions. Where's Sergi? Do you have any questions, Sergi? I have questions for you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I said I shared my picture of my structure in Abstract, and it's kind of similar, even like using the same words. Yeah, so you can take a look. It's funny. Yeah, but
Cool.
we actually never talk about this.
I know. Good. Any questions? Anyone?
Yeah, I have a question, Marcelo. How do you sell the idea of the design system to your company executive, let's say? Some of them, they are not familiarized with design.
That's such a loaded question. I can share with you a deck on how to sell not only a visual language, how to sell the entire design system in your organization. So the first thing you need to do is definitely do an audit, right? If you are working with legacy systems, or if this is a new system, right, you can do an audit in all these systems, all the systems that you have or products, and then you can start surfacing all the inconsistencies, right? See how buttons are different sizes and different colors. You can show how people put buttons on the right, and other people put button on the left. They don't have a good patterns to filter a data table. Some use modals, and inside modals, there's so many inconsistencies that you can find in any product. That's how I usually begin. Show them that this is a problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah, this makes sense. It's very challenging because the thing is that inside the company I work, there is more than 10 products. And each of these products, they have their own identities. And it's really hard to build something that is going to standardize all of them. So I have no idea how to do that because they have different branding. It's so complex. The other thing I want to ask you is, it is possible to create a design system and work with it, maintain the design system at the same time you're working in other full-time projects? Because this is happening to me. I mean, the design system is going to be more like a pilot, let's say, is that we want to push for the future. But at the same time, there are so many projects going on at the same time. So it is possible to do this, or necessarily you need a person.
And you are the only designer?
There's another designer, but it's the same. There are too many projects overlapping and running at the same times.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to realize is that you can create your own system to make you more efficient. But from that, for you to start raising the flag on let's build a design system that all designers can work on and all developers can work on, I think that that could be overkill. So you add more overhead instead of being efficient. So I think, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear on this because the idea we have is to sell this and establish a design system for the whole corporation. But
how big is the corporation?
It's big. Like, I mean, 50,000 employees, and yeah,
wow.
A lot of things going on.
How many engineers do they have?
How many designers?
How many engineers?
Oh, engineers, they have a lot, but they're overseas, and some of them are contractors, so they are not
maybe,
even.
Yeah, maybe this is a good situation for you to have a design system, right? Anyone wants to comment? And feel free.
I can share my experience how I sold design system to my company. So first of all, like Marcel mentioned, you can create like your personal library, right? Sketch library, you know, kind of build your library, share your library with the designers, and designers will just pick it up, and you know, and you will not even notice how your design start being even more consistent than it was before. Second thing, create a presentation, mention like points why design system is good, all the benefits, mention decision making, which will be cut it off like almost in half when you like actually designing mockups, right? Because once all UX is done, you're not thinking how this or that button should look like. You only choosing the correct button and pulling it to the canvas. Second thing is a communication improvement within a team. I'm not even talking about designers and developers, which is a major one. It's also communication between your product owners, you know, project managers, because that's the same language you will be talking to about the components elements, you know, things like that. So basically you need to kind of let them know that it will speed up the process, design process, development process, and it will save the time, and saving the time equals saving the money. So it's all about it.
You can also show them case studies too of similar businesses who have, you know, design systems that are functioning today, and why it's so important to them and what makes it easy for their organization to be so scalable.
If you can measure the success rate, it's going to be like perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you. So yeah, thanks, Sergio. I just shared a presentation that we presented a few years ago at the UX Dev conference, how to sell a design system, right? And here you have a very good, and this probably has changed because it's been years now, but the framework is the same, right? How do you get the leadership buy-in, right? If I can remember how I presented this, but you know, like good practices to communicate well, to establish communication channels, to use Jira or Confluence to document this, right? The expert assessment interview. So this is something that you can invite someone who's knowledgeable about design systems, that has built design systems in different organizations, to assess what you have and make some recommendations. And this expert assessment will definitely have some stakeholders interviews, and this is after you get the buy-in. But this is really the important thing. Here's the roadmap of how you have a successful design system implemented in your organization. The first thing, you do an audit, you create a strategy, just the MVP strategy. You build a visual language, like your product language. And at the same time, you work with the developer to create a very simple design system website that can be done using Notion, that can be done using Google Sites, whatever you have at your disposal. Make sure that people will be able to go in and see your progress and download the assets. Integration strategy, this is mostly for you to identify pilot projects, like the smaller projects that I was mentioning to Christina earlier. Select projects that will show you quick wins, right? And then you select the project and you work on that project, and then you address any technical that from this project, and create an early adopter program. So this goes on and on. The other good thing about this deck is you have the leadership memo, right? What that is this is an outline. When you have this documentation, you have an executive summary, right? You convey the progress that you have made up to this point, what you can and what you can achieve and by when, what is the current state, what is the vision, what is the definition of design system. You can go through this stack, and so you need to talk about you need to build something that's stack agnostic. Like if you work on legacy systems, you have different stacks that will definitely create some confusion. So you decide to work on something that's more agnostic, that has accessibility, that has internationalization, that has tokens. So have a look at this. If you have any questions, ping me offline on Fluxia, and we can talk more about how we can help you.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Sounds good.
On a good direction.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about tokens. Any other questions? I have a questions. Who here? Let me stop sharing. If you don't have an idea what design tokens are, how would you describe it? If I say, oh, we're going to be building a design tokens to help us create a single source of truth for our products. Can I pick someone? I'm gonna pick someone. Oh, Irving, I'm gonna pick you, man.
Oh, hello everyone, this is Irving.
What are design tokens?
Well, I would say that token is the minimal particle that contains the minimal particle of a design system that contain the main information of that will be help us to define the scale of the elements and everything else. That makes sense?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Anyone else want to complement? Have anyone here? Is anyone here using design tokens on your companies, on your products? All right, so let's talk about that. Do you want to share how design tokens has helped you? I'm sorry, I don't see your name, but I remember you from our last meetup. There you go, Selena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I can describe. It's like SAS variables. You pretty much assign a value to a name, pretty much giving it like the dev explanation. But that's how we use it. Pretty much our tokens are a SAS variable. Okay,
that's good. That's very good. So it's a SAS variables, but are you using SAS variables in your Figma files or Sketch files?
What you talking about with the API?
Yeah, anything.
No, we're not there yet. We want to get there, but we're not there yet. But we are. It's pretty much the same tokens, the same name variables, exactly how it's in the SAS variable, like the $sign. It's exactly in our design.
That's good. Okay. How about you, Sergi? I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying that it's smallest element in design, the foundation of it. And it's like tokens, colors, you know, all of that. Think about it as the smallest Lego cube, right? That you build in other Legos. So that's a token actually. And tokens can live in like SAS files, right? They can be shared with developers, and they can just vary from component to component.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for contributing. So let's talk about tokens and how we are proposing how to use tokens. So let me share something here. So this is a token file, right? So this token file is carrying all my palettes, and you have the different colors of different shades of red, right? Let me see if I can just.
Marcelo, I think you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right, so this is, can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, so this is Visual Studio Code. That's the tool, the IDE that your developers use to code. And this is a JSON file, which is a JavaScript object notation, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty much like a database in a single file, right? So this is like a very simple file that developers can plug in and collect these key names and its values. So you have a key value pair. So if you scroll down here, so you saw the palettes there. And now I can say, so from all those colors, I can start building my branding colors. I say that my branding colors, my primary will be lime, or maybe not, it will be red, right? My secondary will be blue, right? My focus color will be, I'll let Claudio pick that color, but I'll do pink. And my accent color can be orange. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, go into my colors collection, which is all the way up here. Under palettes, and inside palettes, find the orange group and pick the 500 color, right? So what that means is that I am going to my colors, and I find my orange somewhere here, right? So I have orange, and I'm gonna pick this 500. So the value that I'm gonna get for that string will be this hexadecimal code, right? So that's how I am defining my branding colors. Sorry for moving the screen up and up and down. So I know this may be disturbing. So here it is, right? So I can change this anytime I want, right? Anytime the CMO decides to change, if they decide have a rebranding. Okay. The other thing that my token file has in not only colors, but it has the spacings, the sizing. I can use this sizing as extra small, small, medium, large, extra large for button sizes, button height. So I have a very consistent way to use these units. I don't need to keep guessing. These decisions have been made, and I'm using this consistently in my web, mobile components, and also on my design files, right? I have opacity tokens. I have font families. This is really key because you have font families for heading, font family for body, for button labels or form labels. You have a monospace font family for code, especially if you, on your design system, you're just like showing snippets of code, how to implement that particular component. I tend to add my iconography font family. I love using Font Awesome. And you saw that I used the Roboto Condense for the annotation files, right? So I can keep all of this, and all the designers can use the same thing. Then I have line heights, font weights, so you get the gist of it, right? I have my font sizes, I have my icon sizes, and I'm gonna show you a couple of examples there. So let's go back to Figma. I'm gonna open a project file that one of the teams are working on. So we are using tokens here. And I'll show you the plugin so you can already see how long it's taking to load this. And this is mostly because there are a lot of photos, bitmaps here, right? And so let me show this very quickly without having to review about the project. So I'm going to show you something like this. Okay. So I'm using tokens for driving these design decisions. And I am using a Figma Figma tokens plugin. And I can show you where to get there. So it's loading it shouldn't be taking that long to load, so maybe I didn't click on it. And there you go. Okay, so here I have my token files and have my JSON file, have all my palettes here, right? And I have some design decisions made for these icons. And you can see how my Figma styles are all here as well, okay? One thing that I love about this approach is that I can manage everything from this JSON file, and this will be the same JSON file that my engineer will be working from. So if my if the client decides that this is not going to be they don't like the outline icon, they want a solid icon, and I can show you some that I'm using this everywhere. So I can just simply go here and find that particular token for my default icon weight. So see icon default light, I can change this to solid. And I simply update, but it will also update my styles. Right? So now everything is solid. Okay, so I'm going to put this back. I know this is kind of a very simple example, but this scales. This scales tremendously. The same thing with this. So when you go open this component, this plugin, you select your tagline here, and you see all your tokens. You can see this is a display. This using the display token. And this is also using, you can see how there's a display style here. I am using Lato as my my heading fonts. I can go here and change my font family for headings. I don't want that to be Lato. I want that to be lobster too. And that changed all my screens, and it also changed my styles. Okay, so, and this is the same file that is driving the website, the product, the mobile app. That's this particular token here. That's the single source of truth. All right, so let me save this. I'm gonna get out of this file before I mess that up. And so let's see, and we're gonna be adding this this token that we are creating. I'm gonna create a new file. Remember our new file here? Let's open that. I don't have any styles here. And I will bring the plugin out. Figma token, if I can find it. Okay. And I'm gonna show you how to download and install that. So if you go to the Figma button and go into community, and you can simply look for Figma tokens, search for that, go into the plugin tab, and here it is. All right. So I wish, let me just allow this. I wish they had a way to share, like give it a link, but this is what it does, right?
I shared it already, Marcelo.
Thank you.
In the chat.
Let me grab some water here. So you can see that I do not have any tokens and styles. So, but you should use this with caution because they are, this is a plugin, and any plugin will have some bugs. Don't start using this on day one. Just practice. Do a POC. That's what we've been doing. We tested it and it worked, and we're using a couple of projects already. But there are some things that I noticed from using this plugin is that they have some typos here that will definitely screw up your styles, right? So I thought I saw, yeah, see heading here, it's missing the A, right? So what I did, I created my own token files, which is over here. And I've been messing with that, so that might not be bulletproof, but it's more scalable as well. So right now you can see how this default token file, they have only 4 styles, a couple of line heights, font sizes, right? And the one that I just copied over here, I'm gonna paste it over here, has a lot more. So I'm gonna save and update. And you can see that I don't have any styles just yet. All right, so I'll go back to tokens. And you can see that I have all my palettes here. And I have my font weights. I have my icon default. Right, I have all my headings, my body code, icon sizes. All right, so right now, I don't have any styles into this document. So what I can do now is a couple of things. The first thing that I would do, and that would be used with caution, is like, let's just rethink this project. This is not my file, the mobile app. I want to build a token library that everyone can use. All right, so, and I am going to rename this tokens, design tokens. Okay, So now I'm able to create my single token files, and I can actually share this file as my single source of truth for all the styles I'm gonna be using in this project. The way I'm gonna do is, now that I have the JSON file that my developer sent me, I can create the style. So there's a little icon here that you can click and create from scratch. It creates all the styles at once. Okay, so now I can go here and say, if you use Font Awesome, you know that you can do a search. I'm just zoom into here. All right, you can type in the string, and I can use my icon large. There you go. So it's using my Font Awesome. Right, so it's using the style. Or I can say this is just my heading 1 bold. Okay, and just make sure that this is okay. My heading 1 bold, and this heading 1 bold will be using my branding color. Remember that orange 500 here, right? And my focus color pink, right? So that's my. So it creates. Sketch has something similar now. They call it color variables. So what I love about Figma from the beginning, they always treated the color separately from the typography. So you can have different headings with different colors, right? So I can have, and if I decide to go and my, whoever decides makes the design decision in my organization and says that heading 1 is now, it's gonna be like font size will be 104 and updates, that should update the font size, and that should update my styles automatically. Okay. So let me show you, save this, and now I'm gonna save this file as my styles library. So my tokens are here, they have been imported. All my styles are done. If you want to create a sticker sheet to represent your tokens, I would do tokens, and I'll remove these components. I don't need that. And I have my page here. Now I have, this will be my tokens, design tokens. And this will be a community. And that's version 1. And this should be version 1 as well. And then I can publish that, and I can start using these styles in all the projects. So publish styles and components. And this is my 001 design tokens. POC. Okay, so now if I go on my project and my Sketch and Fajitas project, let's see if I can bring in I created a new file. Oh, there's a team here, the project name, a new file. And the first file of the project, I have no idea where are the styles, and I call my colleague, hey, where's the design token files? I'm starting this new project. I want to make sure that I'm using the colors from the product. Obviously, you gotta go through your name over here, right? And project file. This is not a library. This is not what I'm going to be publishing, but I do want to import my design tokens. There you go. So that's my design tokens. It has 208 styles. And hopefully I can see my styles. Hey Beto, let me know if this is, so I'm doing the publishing correct, because I'm working on a separate project, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to import the styles from that. Never done that, by the way.
I was wondering that if, because you're in Fajitas, I don't know if you need to be on cross team in order to see the library.
Oh, because it's a different organization, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's a different organization, but I'm sure you will work under the same, so I can actually create a new project, and this will be my new project. And then under this new project, I can create my project file. And I'm going to import the same way. And all right. So okay, so once I have this here, I should be able to see the styles here. Yeah, there you go. So I have all the styles from here. So let me do the icon large again, because we've been playing with font awesome. Let's do home, right? And I want to make sure that when I change my tokens on my community design token files, look at that, I misspelled that. I'm gonna bring my component, my plugin again. I'm gonna change the my default to be solid. I want to make sure that my project file will all now have solid icons. And while I'm doing that, let me just put out some text over here. And I'm gonna use my branding color. It's my primary, right? And my text here using, you know, my heading file. I guess I can just do this, H1, this way, where my typography. That's fine. Oh, of course, I'm using the fill. So I have heading 1 bold. Okay. So I'm going to, this is my project file. Everything is going fine. And someone along the line decides to change my life and it's creating a lot of headache. This is no longer use the font family Lato. It will use something else. Go with the lobster. And my default icon, it won't be light, it will be solid. And we're also changing my primary color or branding color from red to purple. And I'll say this. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to remind you to publish. And you obviously, at this point, if you are the person responsible for the design system, you can see the styles of it. You are going, this is a major version. So obviously you're going to rename the version. I'll do that for just for lack of good practice. And I'm going to publish this. You can publish from here and say, new typography, color, and icon style. Publish. This is published, and when I go to my project file, this project file, in a few seconds, I should have a warning that this file has changed. So usually what I do, I close, and then when I come back, right. At some point, the publish will show up over here. And I want to open up for any questions, and so I can drink a little water here. Did I lose everyone? This is like such a boring topic. Do you see any use of tokens, or even for the folks that are using tokens? Is this pretty much how you are using?
Yeah, that's not boring. That's awesome. Tokens is awesome.
So remember that gold, Irving? That gold's gonna change at some point. So this is how you would change.
Yeah, for sure. It's so useful. It would be awesome to implement that there.
Right. So I'm not sure why this is taking a while. That's probably because it's a separate project. But it's usually very quick when you are inside the same project. And go to my boilerplate, and yeah, 2 minutes. So I remember when we presented the same approach, like over a year ago, and there you go. So it's asking me to publish again. Okay, I'll publish. That's probably why it didn't go through, because it didn't pick up the publishing. So if I go back to my new project, there you go. So you can see how it's showing this, right? And usually what I do, I like to review the changes. So a couple of things is changing my primary color to purple, all right? Changing my font family from Lato to Lobster 2. And it's changing my icon to solid. All right. So you can see how powerful and how many hours this will save you when you have to create a new theme. Like if you are working on the light and dark themes or a high contrast theme for accessibility, or if you need to add a focus style, maybe this is a good time for Claudio to plug the focus style event that we're going to be doing soon. So there's so many scenarios that this will save you time and make you more organized, more efficient, and also be your engineer's best friend, right? With that, I am going to share a link um, to my style. I have a GitHub page that I saved over here. And you can find that token file here. And you can download, you can play, you can change, you can learn, you can share, you can have tea with your engineers and see how you can implement this, how you can make your lives easier. And I am so sorry if I bore you to death tonight with this topic, but to me it's awesome. I love it. So
no, not at all. It was really interesting. Thank you.
I got a good general question. At what point, I think this is in general for the audience too. At what point in the design process does one actually go from, I guess, design system component library from like Figma and XD to then creating it into code and building a JSON file so that down the line, you know, things are easily updated? Because I mean, that's not something you do in the beginning of the process, right? It's something that gets built over time.
actually it is. So I think this is the roles and responsibilities. So you should not assume that designers should be creating the JSON files. Now, if you are the unicorn type that you can go by and you wear different hats in your company, yeah, you can probably be dangerous. And if you know enough, it's not difficult. It's a collection, but there's a lot of syntax. Make sure you use the proper tool to review that. So the other thing, Selena, that you mentioned that using color variables on CSS pre-processing. There are ways to import JSON file as tokens in a SAS file. So this way you have the JSON file, this exact JSON file you bring into the SAS preprocessing file, like the color variables, and you just use the tokens, right?
Yeah.
And you abstract your design decisions from the SAS variables to the JSON file. So now you can both share the same colors and styles for Figma and web components. So
yeah. Yeah, to answer Jonathan's question, I mean, we're kind of working backwards. The code has been done. Like I'm actually matching the design to the code now. So we have all of our stats variables, but there's certain things I can't put in the JSON file, like our line height and pretty much the type scale. It's all automated in code to the point where there's no point in doing a JSON file. So it really depends on how many things you want to put in there. For me, it's just really colors. And that's about it, I believe. That's as far as what I can use tokens for. Everything else is pretty much automated.
Yeah.
I think like when you're following brand guidelines, I mean, you have, you know, the colors palette set, you know what typography library you're going to use, but in terms of sizing and padding and all that stuff, like that's something that has to be, I guess, thought through before actually implementing into code, before making it a part of like a JSON system to be, you know, updating over time as things may change or people may object depending on what you have.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is we don't update them often at all, maybe like 3 times a year. Like what we have is pretty much set. But I mean, we use the 8-point system for spacing, and that's kind of like accommodate for a lot of use cases. but I think it's at first it's a lot of iteration and talking to your developers and like seeing what works, and then just like this is it. If there's any like use case like that, just talk about it. But a lot of iteration, a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that 8-point rule is one thing I was preaching to at Citrix. Actually, there's somebody from the team I was working with at Citrix. His name is Caesar. He's on the call now, and they weren't following that rule. They were building out their entire component library and design system, and it was just using all these odd numbers. And some of the files I'll go into, you would see fractions of spacing, and it just wasn't balanced. And I think that's where, in my mind, things can get confusing, because when you don't follow a good balanced system of spacing, then down the line changes may need to happen, based off of observation and things like that. So.
Yeah, I'm going back and I'm redoing all the 8-point system, and I'm pretty much going back into the code and like changing them. So there is like a lot of back and forth right now, but once it's solid, it's pretty good. The thing is, you can't get it perfect. There's no use to trying to get it to perfect. Like you're not going to be able to do that.
That's correct. And there's also the relative sizing, like in case of Figma and Sketch and XD, they use DPs, like the pixel density independent unit. And the web and mobile, they use relative units like RAMs. So I think that definitely a way. So, but there's that single unit that you can have as a token, and the design needs to translate the same way, right? So I think that's why some of the font sizing, we designers won't be changing on Figma. That's why it's like, don't mess with that, right? So, and that should align well. And that's why, like, sometimes you send out the screens to the developers, and they scratch their head, and why you give me like a 96 pixel font size when I use 3 RAMs or 4 RAMs, whatever that is, right? So, so I think that's the communication, right? In any team, you should be communicating with your engineers. So don't just throw over the fence. And I think that's where I have a lot of passion for trying to bridge UX and development with these patterns. So.
Yeah, and I preach that 8-point rule a lot, because when it comes, if the developer on the developer side, when they know that you're following that rule, even they can pretty much guess or estimate the exact spacing between objects, because that kind of gets ingrained in your mind. So you already know, okay, from one component to the next, probably 96 pixels, right? And you might be accurate, or it could be 8 pixels more, 8 pixels less, but you kind of get a sense of the overall structure if you do follow that rule.
Right.
Awesome.
Questions?
Are there any other questions?
Well, I'm Marcelo Irving again. My question is, you are using Font Awesome, right? But is that possible to add to the design system, like icons, like regular icons, vector files, something like that?
Yeah,
should be.
Yeah, you can actually create your own web font. I'm not sure if that's the latest approach, but back in the days, that was a thing. Like you create your own icons and you create your own font family, and you can use that in the system. So I'm not sure if that's still a good practice, but it was at some point. So.
Okay, but I need to transform the icons in font anyway, right?
Yeah, and there are sites that do that, but if I know a little bit about your work, so I think having SVGs is just fine, right?
Okay.
So the only problem not a problem, it's an additional work that you have to hand off the image assets, the SVG assets, and depending on which platform are you developing for, like If it is iOS or if it is Android, you're gonna be end up not only giving SVG, but you also need to give PDFs, right, for your backend.
Mm,
So different sizes for different. So I think it's just like it's again talk to your engineer and then you figure out what's the best approach. I
perfect.
like Awesome because that's a platform that will give me 7,000 icons and that has a CDN that has plugins for all major product design tools. And that also has libraries for developers that they can just import and use the same way we use, they can use. So it's just
Mhm.
like from designing and working with different iconographies, I found like Font Awesome is the for a startup perhaps is
Mhm.
definitely a good way to go. If you have the budget to have someone design icons for a couple of months, yeah, sure,
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Claudio, are you around?
I'm around.
All right, do you want to plug our next event?
Yeah, the 19th, if we get that date cleared, we will be doing a session where we're going to be talking about focus. And it's going to be talking about focus from a programming point of view in terms of, what sort of elements, which particular elements are waiting to receive your input. And there's a whole science behind this. And we've developed a demo. We've developed a product for demoing, what different types of focus are, widths, that sort of thing. And, we'll be showing some pretty groundbreaking stuff in terms of how you would approach it when you bring it in into your design process, and even how to work motion design into this. So it should be an interesting session on the 19th, and we're going to have Dr. Shane McWhorter join us and talk a little bit about the cognition, the psychology behind and what draws your attention. So we're going to have a little bit of the science behind this as well.
Are we going to be doing the gorilla video?
Well, he's got some interesting stuff to say. I mean, remember, he worked for the Defense Department, and
Right.
he worked on the whole psychology of how you spot things in a busy sort of environment, like how camouflage works and how you can spot tanks in tall grass or infantrymen. That sort of thing. So if there's anybody who's going to talk to us about focus and being able to detect stuff visually in a crowded field, it's going to be Dr. Shane for sure.
I'm looking forward to that one. Beto, thank you, Claudio.
No, thanks to you. It was awesome to learn about this, and like in general, like kind of like I think the biggest, at least for me, because I don't know code, is about the JSON part, that it makes it so much easier just to import the code and just put it right there on the canvas for you just to edit the everything, like the colors, the icons. So for me, that was the biggest thing for me to learn today.
So this was just part one of this. In January, we want to take all the learnings that we are having over here, and we want to create boilerplates for designers. So we're gonna make this, we're gonna package in a way that you can download the Figma files, load it in your project, and then you can start, just hitting the ground running. If you're working on a project from scratch, you Ozzy, like you were mentioning there. So I think that will definitely be helpful, or at least like the learnings in terms of naming convention, everything that we shared here tonight. If you want to learn more about, make sure you contact Beto and I over Slack, right? For those who are not on Flux yet, we fluxyet.co. You can join our community Slack. There are over, I don't know, I think there's over 800 people, 800 designers in our community, and we all share good stuff, and we create this big family that we are, and we are very proud of it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Marcelo, for this. It was really helpful, and everyone's like saying, "Oh, awesome."
Oh yeah, I didn't want to chat. I thought it was like boring people to death, and this is like it can be some complex and over the head topic, but that's why like we open up for discussion. So
Hey,
Yes.
Claudio, do you have a link to that event coming up?
No, we still have to like write the promo materials. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball on that.
Jonathan's on vacation. He's available to help.
Yeah, let me know if you need help. You just put me on the spot. I'm not on vacation, but I'll help.
Well, thanks everyone. Thank you so much, Beto, for helping put this together, and I really appreciate your help. And if you have not signed to the Friends of Figma community, go there. Can you share the link again, Beto? Make sure you go there. And Figma has some really cool way to build a community. They're testing something. They are very innovative and different. So definitely encourage you to join that community as well. All right, and we're gonna be doing a lot of joint events just to help share this, because Figma is part of UX as well. So, and if you're interested on sharing anything, just like hit us. Go ahead, Beto. Sorry.
No, yeah, I mean, remember that it's not only the Miami chapter, but there are different cities doing this. So every city has a different talk, and you can just go to friends.figma.com and you will see like kind of like the schedule of events, and you will see like really interesting talks. Like recently they have a talk on accessibility actually, and I think it can be viewed now that it was, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. And that was done by the people of Denver, I think. So, but they're like all over the place, and from South America to Europe to Asia. It's really interesting what they're doing all over the place. So it's not just Miami, it's all over. So feel free to check them out, and hopefully we'll see you at the end of the month and in chapter 2 on January. So yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I was,
Thank you.